Welcome to Squid Game Secrets with Trey and LeAnn, aka Player 301 and 302. How are you both doing?
We're doing great.
Doing good.
We're doing really well.
It's so great to sit down with you. I know everyone is just hanging on your every word and wants to hear every single thing that you all have to say about Squid Game, the challenge. So I want to dive right in. I want to talk about pre-game stuff. Whose idea was it to sign up for the show?
It was my idea. I saw an application on some like reality casting producer's Instagram story, sent in an application in like September 2022. And then they had asked me after a few rounds of interviews if I had any friends that might want to be on the show.
Apparently I'm not his friend.
I suggested two people before my mom like cold called me and was like, what the heck? I don't have anything going on.
Because I found out from my older daughter, who's friends with one of the friends he asked, did you know that Trey asked John to be on the show? I'm like, what the heck? I'm retired. I'm not doing anything. I immediately started texting. I'm like, Trey. So, and I got a call shortly after.
So what was that timeline like from you guys submitting a tape to actually getting on the show?
Yeah. It was about 3 months. It was 3 months for me. It was about 2 months for the two of us.
Yeah. Well,
because I think we knew we were going to be on the show like about a month out from filming.
I think I found out about 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Because I was literally, Lauren, I was in a restaurant when they called in our little town here. And I'm not making this up. I had a mouthful of calamari when Squid Game called. So I'm chewing squid when they're saying, you're in. And I'm like, what? Like, how is that possible?
Oh my gosh. And then you became our squid mama.
I'm the squid mom, I guess.
I love that. So 1 month to train, 2 weeks to train. How do you train for a game like Squid Game in that short amount of time?
Well, for me, I had already hired a trainer in my town here. Her name's Dana. And I had hired her because at my age, you like really lose like your balance and your muscle mass in a hurry if you're not really training. So I hired her a couple days a week to just help me with balance and strength for maybe replacing my knee in the future. And I just figured this isn't going to hurt, you know? And then when this started happening, I'm like, oh, this is good because this will also give me physical and mental confidence to do whatever is thrown at us when the show starts, if we make it. So yes. I just kept training.
And you also made dalgona cookies as well.
Oh, I made cookies. I bought the envelopes. I practiced so much I threw my shoulder out. I tried to practice the games as best I could. I tried to figure out the actual Squid Game and just every one of them. I tried to figure them all out and try and practice them. Red light, green light. I'm doing the length of the house, but not the way I should have been doing it, obviously. So when I practice, I only practice for about 10 minutes, but I did not do it for about 9 hours at once.
Ray, what about you?
I didn't train at all. And honestly, I didn't learn my lesson. So unfortunately, I probably should have learned my lesson from that. But yeah, the first time I touched a dalgona cookie was in the game. I didn't really do anything specific to help like train my body to prepare myself for the dorms. And it did work out. I trusted that I was like physically fit enough and healthy enough to get in.
And you were fit enough. I mean, he's a dancer and, you know, so he's very strong and agile and he's long and lanky, but he's strong.
The issue was I was worried about overtraining and then straining my body because my lung collapsed 6 months prior to filming. So I was worried that I was going to train so much that I would re-hurt myself. So I opted for the other strategy, which was eat a ton. And then
yeah.
Did eating a ton affect the way that you were like inside the dorm? Because you guys didn't have access to a lot of food, did you?
Right. No, the number that I've heard thrown around is like somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 calories a day. Like each one of those tins, we were fed 3 times a day, and it was about 500 calories.
If you ate it all.
If you ate it all. And they said that we were fed about 2,000 calories a day. but I'm not sure. There were uneven portions, so it's a catch-all. I don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of eating a lot, I am super used to going on really long drives where I get 2 stops for food. So it's a mix between like I was like kind of bulking up in terms of like body weight, but I wasn't necessarily training my body to need food because of that prior sort of intermittent fasting, if you will, in those long car rides.
Yeah. I probably had enough calories. I was still hungry, so I would frequently offer my food to someone. In fact, I offered it to Trey often enough early on that he said, you have to stop doing that. There's going to be a target on my back. You know, offer it to somebody else. So I started giving it to other people, you know.
That is actually the perfect segue to my next question, which is, did you both discuss if you were going to tell people that you were mother and son? Because when I heard Trey yell mom across the dorm, even my antennas went up like, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so we talked about beforehand, like we were actually had full intention of not telling anybody for a really long time into the game until it came up organically as like almost like it's spurring up as an advantage for the two of us to share that.
For anyone we were aligned with, we wanted to have people we could trust that we would tell, hey, there's 2 of us, not just one. You can trust us, sort of thing. That
pretty quickly fell to the wayside
yes,
at the end of red light, green light, because so I get to the end first, right? And I'm cheering her on, and I'm really nervous about her not being able to make it, obviously. And I'm thinking to myself in that moment, like, if the difference between her making it across the finish line and her getting eliminated is me like saying, I love you, mom, or like, come on, mom, you could do it, and me vocalizing that out into the world, then I would rather people know and her make it through with me than keep it a secret for the sake of whatever this amorphous game plan for this game that we've never played before, you know?
And for me, when I was so close to making it, there was a point, I think it was maybe the second to last round, where they cut the music so quickly that everybody had to stop short. I wasn't sure if I stopped or not. I thought I had, and I was hoping I had, but I looked at Trey's face and he turned white, and then he like broke down, and then I'm like, I kept saying, it's okay, Trey, it's okay, Trey. But my it's okay, Trey was, you go on in this game. If I get eliminated, you keep going, it's okay, you know. But somehow I wish I knew how many of us went across in that very last round, because there were a lot, and so many of those people in that very last 1 or 2 seconds to go on that clock made it to top 50, top 30, top 20. Yeah. So many. It was kind of stunning as it started whittling down, like, wow, you know, how do we do that?
We're so off base from the question, but here's a couple.
Sorry, go ahead.
Last, me, or not me, Mom, Figgy, TJ, Rick. All 5 of them made it in the last go, like with 5 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, it was stunning.
Yeah.
It really was. And there were a lot of others that made it in that last tick. So yeah, it was stunning how many of us did it in that round.
I interviewed Dan, player 204, and he said, isn't he great? He's so great, just like you both. He
Jersey.
Yes, Jersey. Yeah, I heard there was a lot of Jersey representation on Squid Game.
Jersey.
There were.
I love that. So he told me that during that challenge, being that it was 8 hours, 9 hours long, you would have to freeze and sometimes stay in that frozen position while the drone would come around and like make all this noise, and you felt like the drone was going to push you over. Can you both tell me a position that you paused in that you wish you hadn't?
Oh, the first 3. Because I practiced, so my muscle memory was telling me to do what I practiced. I mean, that's how it works in basketball. That's how it works for anything. Your muscles do what they know to do. So I practiced in like a squatting defensive stance with my arms out like this, which is a great stance for balance. It's not so great to hold for 30 minutes. And I did it like the first 3 times. And finally Trey like turns around, talks out of he didn't turn his head. He talks out the side of his mouth because he was still even with me then. And he said, put your hands in your pocket and stand up. And I'm like, I'm trying. My body won't do it. So finally I did. That's why my hands are in my pocket. And, you know, I never took them out after that because it was cold and I had hand warmers. So it was, you know, it was very unfortunate how I started because that was brutal. There were people that got in horrible positions. And Trey, were you originally doing the standing up mode or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't, when the game first started, I didn't even make it past the starting line for when the music hit. So like I was still behind the starting line and I was in an awkward position. Similarly, I was in like a mini, like one-legged lunge. Like I was still upright, but I was like, my right knee was a little bit bent and my left knee was extended, and that was terrible. And my body was torqued a little bit. And then for the rest of the time, because that hold was so long, my left shoulder, like right here, was hurting really, really bad the entire time. So that was tough.
You know, it was interesting, Lauren, each of us, Trey had Bridget as his like partner eventually to the end. And I had James. Oh, I know. We'll tell you. So, and I had James, player 269. He made to the bridge. He was in front of me. So even though he didn't know I was like gaining inspiration from him, I was. And I was also cheering for him because he fainted dead away in the middle of this thing. But we were at an adjudication process where they said, okay, players, everybody can relax. You know, we're going to take care of the people who have fainted, whatever. But James fainted during that process, so it didn't count for him moving. And by the time the medics got over there and said, do you want to quit? He said, absolutely not. I don't want to quit. And he got up and he finished. And, you know, it was just like we all took inspiration from either ourselves or people throughout that time period. It was, if I ended then, it was the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. And when I ended when I did, it was still the most amazing thing I'd ever done in my life. It's
How did you guys deal with people getting their squib going off and you're having to stand there and be still? Like, were people moaning and groaning, crying, upset that they were out of the game?
Oh, I have a good story.
Oh boy.
Yes. I mean, the squib was scary because also like when there's so many people around you, you think it's yours sometimes. So like a squib can go off to your right and like your instinct is to look down to make sure it's not yours. But like you feel it when it's yours. It goes like that. There was someone to the right of me who got squibbed. It was maybe about halfway through. So it was like hours and hours. And she starts crying. She drops to her knees and sobbing. She goes, I quit law school for this. And then you have to stand there for another 15 minutes as that person is on the ground. And like, you don't know whether to laugh, whether to cry, whether to like, it was unbelievable. Like people really were out here taking the chance of their lives every step of the way. It's like horrifying.
You know what? She needed to quit law school because her heart wasn't in it if she quit for this. She needed to.
That's so true.
Reality.
Yeah, that's so true. So what do you both say to people that say that red light, green light was designed for certain people to win?
I just think that's crazy. There's no way. First of all, they were independent adjudicators. Yeah. And they aren't going to risk their professions to help Netflix. They just aren't going to do it. I know Netflix is paying them, but they aren't going to sacrifice their respectability to anybody else that might hire them. There's no way for them to have known what was going to happen. There's just, for people to say it was rigged, like they put seconds back on the clock. They either took them away or put them back on the whole race.
Yeah. That's the one, if you don't mind, Mom, that's like the one thing that people miss when, like what the journalists missed during when all of that reporting about how it's rigged, about how yada, 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 is that every single time that the clock restarted again, they would add like 2 or 3 seconds. So like when, let's say the clock stops at like 4:22 and then the clock restarts, it jumps up to 4:24 and then it starts ticking down again.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean much until you get down to like, let's say 15 seconds left, and all of a sudden 3 seconds really does mean a lot. But it was consistent every single time, and it wasn't done in a way to help those last people get through.
Yeah,
it's just a ridiculous accusation.
I want to say, if I remember right, they added 2 seconds, right?
I think they added 2 seconds.
I think it was down to 3, and I was looking at my spot on the floor thinking, I can do this. I have to really make like gazelle-like leaps to certain spots on the floor, but I knew I could do it. No, oh no, I absolutely could have done it.
You were in, if the clock was at 2 seconds, you were across that line. Like,
I was gonna get in. Yeah. And then when they added 2 more, I'm like, oh, now I know I can do this. I can like be careful and not jump the gun. But I was going to make it. It's just that I had this guy behind me, I now know as Jimmy K, who was cast on Survivor during the pandemic, and then he got cut.
They did that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So sad. But I'm glad he got on this show.
Yeah. Me too. So he's behind me, and I just hear this voice, hey, 302, you're going to have to run at an angle so I can get across. And I'm like, I know I can't with my knees run at an angle because I can't make that twist and go. And I said, well, I can't do that. You're going to have to do that or I'm going to run you over. I'm like, please don't run me over. And, you know, we just had this whole conversation. He made it. So we had a conversation after the case, and Jimmy K was a piece of work. So it was good to know Jimmy K.
So you guys are literally sitting there still, but talking to each other.
Yeah, you just like barely moving you would move your lips and that's it. You didn't move your head. I didn't know who was talking to me. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, we figured out. Humans figure out a way, right? They just figure out a way.
It's true. Did anyone try to dismantle your alliance? I feel like everybody was just kind of down with the mother-son duo.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, people, I mean, there was talks of it, but the talks didn't go any further than like, wouldn't that be funny? Or like, oh my God, that would be the most heartless thing somebody can do. So I don't think anybody, if like even like the villains, you know, didn't want to do that. Like Lorenzo wouldn't have gone up there and put mom's name down without her doing it to him first, you know? So I think people, generally speaking, were really close with the two of us. Because we divided and conquered. Like I took one half of the dorm, she took the other, and everybody knew us, and everybody knew like sort of our story, and if not our name, then the fact that I was the son and she was the mom.
Yeah, that was it.
People were just chill with it generally.
You know, Lauren, people ask if we had an alliance. I mean, Trey and I, of course, but we had friends that we could really trust. I don't know if I call them an alliance with like Figgy and Dash and James. I don't know if it was like, there was never like this group decision making like you see on Survivor, you know, we're going to do this. Yeah. I would have trusted anything they told me they were going to do. And I know they would have the same with us, but there was never like, this is what we are going to do as a group. Trey, am I remembering wrong? I don't ever remember such a thing. Even when I voted Lorenzo, nobody knew.
I think it's a bad idea. Like, even watching the show, I'm like, I mean, the people who made alliances and were public about them, that's a bad idea. Like, you shouldn't have done that.
You know, that actually, I wanted to ask about the strategy because we didn't get to see a lot on screen. And is that because a lot of people weren't grouping off like we did see with the Gombu gang, or I always say it wrong. I call them the Gumbo gang. Dan was like, Lauren, that's not it. But you did see those people quickly get a target painted on their back.
Yeah.
Was there strategy happening, or was it like more just conversations?
There was. First of all, I called them the Gambinos because I didn't know what they
I call them the Goobus for a long time until I realized that Gongbu was actually like a thing in the show. But
are you going to tell your Dr. Rick story, or are you going to?
Oh yeah, I'd love to tell my Dr. Rick story.
So, I would love a Dr. Rick story.
Like, sure, there was like, of course, there was strategy like thrown about left and right. especially surrounding like the keypad. Like a couple things that like the edit didn't necessarily capture was TJ was almost about to be voted out by, I believe, the Corner Alliance until Lorenzo did that to my mom, and then they were like, oh, well, we can't do that now. Let's just we need to make sure LeAnn stays in. So we're all talking strategy in the dorms. I'm trying to figure out if my name is out there because I like have a understanding that people know who we are and need to make sure that things are okay. I go up to Rick, someone I think I could trust. And I go up to Rick.
Next to Rick. Rick was like always near me in the bunks, and we chit-chatted.
There were a few people I talked to daily. Rick was one of the people I talked to daily. I go up to Rick and I'm like, hey, Rick, have you heard anything like about like what name are you thinking about putting down? And Rick just goes, can't tell you. Congo game. And I'm like, okay. And I go, okay, are you thinking about putting my name down? Like, are you thinking about me? And he goes, oh, no. And I go, okay, would you tell me if you were going to put my name down? And he goes, oh, no. I was like, okay, end of conversation, walk to the next person. So like, I really have compared this, since we filmed, I've compared Squid Game, the challenge, to the first season of Survivor quite a bit. There is like it is like the evolution of strategy is remarkable throughout the season. And I don't even think it gets to a point where you can even call it strategy. And it's fascinating because like everybody hated Richard Hatch because he played the game. And it seems to me that the reaction from the public is that people hate the people in the game that are playing the game.
I literally have chills as you just said that, Trey. It's so true. But I think being the Survivor nerds that we are, that's why we can appreciate and respect it, because you're right. Mai is getting a ton of hate for the choices that she made in an individual game. People have to remember that. And it's wild to me, but you're so right. It does remind me of OG Survivor. I wish that they had showed that interaction with Rick. That is hilarious.
You know what, Lauren? When that happened, and then when Rick and Steven went home, I'm like, I would have been devastated. But once I knew that conversation, I'm like, all right. I felt bad, but like, no. No, you either have friends or you don't. And your alliance, you don't even know what game you're playing here. You don't even know if an alliance is good or not. So that's a choice. That was a choice.
Yeah. So in talking about dividing and conquering the dorm, when it came to the challenges, did you both have a conversation about dividing and conquering those? Or were you like, we're just going to play the games together, like Warship and Marbles?
Yeah. So I think there was a conversation in Dalgana that we were not going to be together. I wanted to take line 3 and you were insistent on taking line 1 and we were going to split up. But I think after some convincing, you were like, we need to be together. We have to be together for this, which I'm so glad for. I also did not want to be together for Warships, period.
I never saw him more sour, salty, the whole thing.
I was mad.
Oh, he was so mad.
I was so mad because I walked into that game when we found out it was Warships. I was like, great. I don't want to be in the 5 boat and I do not want to be with Mom. And lo and behold, I was in the 5 boat and I was not only with my mom, but standing next to her. It was terrible. And then for Marbles,
Trey, Sam was in our boat.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Lorenzo was on our team. Like it's unbelievable.
Was Ashley in our boat?
Yeah, Ashley was in our boat as well.
What a boat we had.
Yeah, what a boat.
You sure did. When it was time for the picnic, Trey, I know you study these games. Did a thought go off in your head like, I shouldn't sit next to my mom?
Yeah. And I think, a similar thought went off in Mom's head. Stronger and more vocal than the thought that went off in my head. But I had seen 2 advantages go by the wayside in the game. And I was like, well, if there is I was excited because there was a prop, an accompanying prop. And I was like, oh, there's got to be an advantage hidden in here. and I wanted to be the first to find it, and I wanted to be with Mom when I found it. But also the fact that we played the entire game together, I didn't want to let my paranoia for what this might be lead to what could be ruining a really nice time with my mom in unimaginable circumstances. And this is a really flowery way to say that I got fooled really bad by the producers.
I just can't say how quickly the dark cloud went over my head, and that was that. Yeah.
So Dan told me that there was a very Dan told me there was like an us against them mentality with the guards and you guys. Like it very quickly became like, we're in this together. We have this camaraderie. Did you guys sense that as well? Or were you like, no, it's actually us against all of you?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm alone in this perspective, but it was a fun, I knew I entered to play this game, but it was actually just so fun to be in the game and then just to react to what was happening as it happened. So I didn't have a feeling that it was me against the man. I didn't have a feeling it was me against everybody else. I just wanted the numbers to keep going down, which were the numbers of how many people were left. So I don't think I was like targeting any, does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
competition wise, it was more like, survival of the fittest. And, we're going to see who evolution bypasses here as we continue on in the game.
And we both never got to a point in the game where we had to target people we cared about. Like
right.
it was
that's right.
At some point,
yeah.
Between marbles and like I didn't even get to a point where I had to target someone, only extend the helping hand. So
marbles.
I would say here's something that uniquely I did feel like I was going to win. Like I very much felt like I was going to win for a really long time. Up until Glass Bridge, I felt like I was going to win. And to the point where like I would see people putting globs of toothpaste on their toothbrush, and I'd be like, you're wasting your toothpaste. You're putting a you're in here for 10 days amount of toothpaste on your toothbrush, and I just put a little sliver because I was like, that's how much I knew I was going to be in the game for a long time, which may be delusional, but I felt the individualness of it quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you were on track to win that thing for sure. And thinking about things like toothpaste and food and whatever you need to conserve makes sense. As you're walking into the marbles challenge, are you guys conversing? Are you talking? Are you, what are you saying to each other?
Well, we weren't allowed to talk about it in the holding room. Yeah. They actually drew a line down the middle of the floor, and one person in the pairing would be on one side and one person on the other, and you weren't supposed to communicate about how you were going to play the game. So we couldn't chit chat about anything. Even if we put our chairs toward the middle of the line, they would have said, you need to go away from each other. So there really wasn't time to talk a whole lot about it except for before we went into that room. And honestly, Trey, I don't know. Do you remember any conversations we had in the dorm previously to marbles?
I remember I said goodnight to you the night before we played marbles, because we had the picnic and then they were like, go to bed. And then we woke up and we played marbles.
Oh my gosh, how did you sleep?
Yeah, right.
I slept really well.
That's funny. But yeah, I remember I said goodnight and I was like, whatever happens, happens. Good playing with you or something like that, because I knew we were going to have a long day of not talking to each other the next day. I don't think we played marbles for like 4 hours into the experience, because I did it in heats of 4.
So as you guys are in the dorm, you're waiting to play the game, but you can't talk?
So the holding room is the white room that you see in the game. So that before every game, that's sort of where we were held for the game. So we weren't in the dorm. We were in that white room for a really long time, which honestly, like, really heightened the games quite a bit emotionally. Because, like, if you think the Spencer's exit, 299, he was very into the umbrella and his emotions were extremely high, and it's because he was sitting in a tent alone for a really long time with no stimuli whatsoever. Maybe somebody coming in and checking on him for water every once in a while. But, like, yeah, we sat in there for about 4 hours before we played marbles.
They definitely did that for a reason, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, behind, like, regardless of whether it's a TV set or not, it helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even after challenges, they would, like, there were a couple of times where Trey and I didn't know if the other went on, like in the cookie game. They held him for like 3 or 4 hours, and we played at the same time. We played side by side. That was maybe the most upset I was in the game, because I thought he didn't make it, and they just weren't telling me, you know. So they were just doing it for the drama of, you know, when he walked into the dorm, the heroic champion.
Yeah. Okay, so LeAnn, when you exited the game, were they giving you updates on Trey in the game?
No, when I immediately exited the game, I actually was sitting behind the set and could see monitors. They didn't have the curtains closed all the way, so I could kind of see some things going on, but obviously I knew he won. I did not see him again until I got delayed in my last interviews post game, and so I went to bed my last night in London, and I asked the welfare team to please let me know. They said, oh, we can't do that. And I'm like, I'm begging you, if he comes home tonight, please let me know, because I'm outside the hotel. Like, I can see the cars pulling up to the hotel front, and I'm getting up every time I hear a car door shut to see if it's him, hoping it's not him. So I heard a little knock at like 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and welfare brought Trey up, and they also brought James up, number 269. And I was so surprised at how, I don't know, just maybe incoherently jubilant they both seemed, because I expected devastation. And then I realized, you know, Trey went out playing honorably, and they explained a little of what happened. And let me say, James helped me get through the first 2 challenges. James was a hero to so many people, James Davison. And, you know, I was so happy to see him too in that moment. And I know Trey was happy to be with him, though he probably wishes they both weren't there at my hotel door. Yeah.
Trey, I wanna get into Jump Gate. We have to talk about it, obviously. So as you're standing on that bridge and Ashley doesn't make a decision, what's going through your mind in that moment?
So what is going through my mind is almost nothing other than make it to the end of the bridge. So Ashley not moving was sort of like, so, okay, I need to go back because I need this to make sense a little bit. So I get my number, right? With the claw machine. Did you know,
Trey, that you were like, were you like, I'm a big threat, I'm probably gonna get a lower number?
No, I talked to, during the rule session, we had like a bit of time, and lunch, we had a bit of time to chat. And people were like, yeah, it's actually messed up that you got number 3, that like you had no business getting number 3 with the game that you played. And like the reason why I got number 3 was because Chaz, the person that gave me the number, eeny, meeny, miny, mowed me. And I was like, well, here we are, luck of the draw. If it's a glass bridge, might as well have the whole thing be luck, you know? So I get that number. We wait 4 hours, we explain the rules, we have lunch, I believe, and then we get up onto the bridge. And by this time, at this point, I've like made peace with going home. And then people talk about this plan, right? and I hear the plan, but I don't quite understand what's going on. And I don't know if you've seen, I've posted a couple, like something on Instagram, something on TikTok, but I don't really understand how we are about to make this a team game. Like, it's glass bridge, everybody jumps. So I'm not like tuning it out, but I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're not gonna hold our hands and make our way through glass bridge together. Like, that's absurd. So I start saying stuff behind me, which is, I did do that. And I think that when I said something behind me, that's what made Marina want to jump ahead of me. So that was my impression, because I had not seen the plan in progress at all up until that point, nor did I know how it was going to work. So I just say, I do the same thing on the next jump after Marina falls, and I say something behind me, and obviously Ashley doesn't move, and I don't direct it to Ashley, I direct it to the group behind me, hoping that anybody would take my jump. And Ashley obviously doesn't take my jump. In terms of like whose fault it was, I'm a nice guy. It probably is my fault. I'm an unstoppable force at that point with momentum, and it is not Ashley's job to be like, oh, I'm going to take that momentum away from you and like make sure that I put myself in harm's way for this person that like we've had like maybe 2 days of really good communication up until that point. Like, I think we really started talking the day before Jack in a Box. So I don't blame her for that. Could she have like jumped in and like, if she understood the plan and jumped in and said yes, sure. But that's not her. It's not her job at that point. She sees this unstoppable force. She's there to win. Like, why? Yeah. If I'm about to flash this bridge, that's a free pass for her. You know? Right. I really don't blame her in any way.
Wow, I love that take, because I got all my questions were, does Trey hate Ashley? What's going on with Ashley? I'm like, you guys, this is a game, relax. But did you hear Ashley agree to the plan that people were confused about? I have to be honest, I was confused watching it. I was like, wait, how does this give people a 50-50?
Right.
But did you hear her say yes?
We weren't even polled. Like, the plan was sort of just said, and then TJ went, does everybody agree to that? Great. No agreement. And then TJ turns around and falls into the it was so I just want to say that like there was some sincere comedy happening on this show that I was just way too serious to laugh at. Between that and between watching people fall over during Dalgana, I wanted to laugh so bad if I wasn't so focused on the task at hand. Yeah. So no, people didn't agree. There were a few people that agreed. But like generally speaking, there wasn't like a vocal yes from every single person. I think I didn't say yes. Siobhan didn't say yes. I mean, obviously I didn't say yes because I wasn't really understanding what was going on. Siobhan didn't say yes. Generally speaking, people were like, you just got to play your game. You just got to play your game. And that was, I think, mistaken as a
Trade.
Yes.
Didn't you all also talk about a basic unionization where the ones in the front just weren't going to move, and if none of you went on, if you went on?
This was part of like the spiraling that was going on in my head. Was like, so
Joe could have ended.
Yeah,
no one.
We're talking about the time limit. There was a time limit at the end of the bridge, and in the rules session, a question came up where it was like, what happens if the time goes out? Like, what then? And I think the rules was like, well, then you're eliminated. Like, if you don't get across in time, you're eliminated. And then the lower number players were like, so can we just like wait out the clock and make the higher number players like have to cross? And they were like, yeah, I guess so. And then there was a big series of questions where it was like, well, if we just stalemate, are we all eliminated? And they didn't really have an answer to that. So like, generally speaking, the consensus that we came to was that the clock didn't quite matter. The clock wasn't really a factor. So I'm sitting there listening to this, wearing number 3, as number 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 are like, well, wait a second, this isn't fair for us. And I'm like, y'all are complaining about having a higher number now, and like then I just shut off my brain at that point. And then Chad came over and he was like, "Do what you got to do, man. You just got to play your game."
You know what? It's all so indicative of what a social experiment it was, because how humans are going to react in high stress situations, whether they're physical or not. I mean, it was really interesting. It was also interesting how everyone, like, you know, grouped into their, you know, different groupings in the dorm. It was just really an interesting social experiment. It really was.
How high up was the glass bridge and what were you falling down into?
So the glass bridge was 15 feet in the air, right? It was scary, and there are no guardrails. It was safe though. Like we were never like ever in any danger of falling off, and they gave us a really detailed like safety like debrief, but we weren't really in danger. But we didn't fall. We went through. So when you jumped on a glass, the announcement came over the speakers that said either 301 pass or 301 eliminated. And then what you would do is you do like a squat and put your hands over your head to like sort of like camera fake that you're falling. And then the rest is just clever editing. So there's like this huge pillow underneath, and a stunt performer would come on and actually do the fall. So like we saw someone fall. It was kind of nutty and a little scary, but we didn't actually fall.
Oh my gosh, so that had to be really agonizing. You have to wait, like, you know, you're out of the game and you have to wait to fall. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So, okay, obviously you broke the story of condomgate and we're almost done, but you broke the story about condomgate. I want to know, was there anything else that didn't make the edit that happened like that?
Oh, man.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, there is one thing. It's not quite it is not quite condomgate level, but it is as funny as condomgate. So the food's bad, right? Food's not very good. There was one day we got food that was actual seasoning and flavor.
Was that the fish?
No, it was Hamburger Helper.
Oh, okay.
That day?
Yeah, I remember that day.
It was just a thing of meat and some like sauce that like you'd find that like you could go to the grocery store right now and find. And it was amazing. It tasted so good. It tasted so good.
It might have had salt on it too, which was like, wow.
Gold. It tasted so good. People ate it so fast that night, the bathrooms were destroyed. People like I'm talking like half the stalls out of order. I not to TMI, and they had cameras to make sure that we were okay. There. Yeah, we had cameras to make sure that we were okay in the bathrooms. None of that footage was ever going to be used or saved.
Thank God.
And one of the producers, after I had done my business, came out, grabbed me, and was like, "Hey, dude, you good? You were in there quite a long time." And I think a couple people got that, and that. I think a few people got that memo. But yeah, that was the best meal and probably one of the worst mornings I had in there. And
there were only 6 bathroom stalls?
I think there were more than that.
No, there were 12, I believe. There were 6 on each side.
Did you guys feel like you had like easy access to the showers and the toilets, or did you feel like it was like, oh, you did?
Oh,
you did.
Yeah,
well, you could get it when you wanted it, but it wasn't really easy to get there because you went up like 8 or 10 stairs, then you went up about 20, 25 more stairs, then you went left for the bathroom or right for the showers. So it was a hike to get to those bathrooms. And when you're 65 years old, you know, living in this communal place in the middle of the night to go to the bathrooms, like, really? Like, do I really have to walk like down the block and up like 30 stairs to get to the bathroom?
Oh my goodness. Did you guys feel like the dorms were clean?
No.
Yeah. No.
Well, that'll tell you the difference. No, there were dust bunnies like this big. I'm like, please, somebody just give me a broom or anything. I will clean this myself. but no, they were dusty.
It was dusty. It wasn't.
It was
dirty.
dusty, but it wasn't like gross, like college dorm-esque. Okay.
No.
Okay.
There weren't things in the dorm other than what you had on, so it couldn't like really get everything all askew,
Yeah. For each of you, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I would not have played marbles. I would have wanted to take the chance that we both would advance.
Yeah.
Because I was crying when I was eliminated, and I was crying because I was happy for Trey, but I also wanted to play. I wanted to keep playing. And so, yeah, I would have wanted to do something to try and advance.
I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. I think the experience was really well-rounded because of marbles, because of what happened on Glass Bridge. And I think I was I was worried about not going out on my own accord. And I don't think I did, if that makes sense. I was really happy with how I played.
It was the best experience of my life.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say you would do it again?
Oh, yeah.
I think so, but boy, would it be so different to play that game again. It really would be different, especially if we went in together again.
I mean, I did a little stalking, and I know you have a couple daughters, LeAnn. Are we gonna get Squid Dad and Squid Daughter in there?
Trey has an opinion on that. Trey's...
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, my dad in this game would be so funny and so iconic in a completely opposite way. He's like 6'8". He's like a really gentle giant. Both of my sisters, if they had to do red light, green light, they would have instantly passed out. Like
even the younger one. The younger one's a Division I athlete. She's in great shape, has great determination, and the older one, she can do things, but I don't know. I think that would have been a really difficult experience for them.
Yeah. So maybe, but
TBD. We'll see. Last question. Who do you want to win? And why?
Ooh.
See, this is really difficult for me, and I can't do it with one because it would be 1/3 of each name. I think I would love if any of the three of them win. I just think they're all amazing people. I couldn't choose. I can't. I know who Trey's gonna say, but I just really love all three of them, and I'm so happy for all three of them. I'm sorry, I can't pick one.
Phil, I want Phil to win. Bergen County. Phil grew up like maybe 10 minutes from our hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil's amazing.
He just radiates the best energy. Trey, who's gonna win Survivor 45?
This is actually.
Oh, LeAnn, do you watch too?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And this is
LeAnn and Trey, who's gonna win Survivor 45?
Well, I mean, Dee reached out to me, so but I love them all. My God, I just love everybody. Who's gonna win? Trey, you answer while I'm thinking.
Okay. I hope and pray it's Emily.
Well, I was gonna say Emily. Yes, I was gonna say Emily because how she started the game and how she adapted, and I don't know if it's editing or not, but I don't think it is. She just really knows what she's doing and recognizes when she didn't know what happened. I mean, they all know how to play the game now. Nobody comes in there uneducated, but yeah, there are some, I didn't think I'd like this season as much as I did the season before. And then every year I like it as much as the year before or season before. Yeah, this is a great season.
Yeah, I feel like I'm home because every time I tell people that I want Emily to win, they look at me like I have 5 heads, and I'm like, this girl is amazing. Yeah, she's great.
You're so safe here.
Yes, no, I love it. I feel safe. Where can everyone find you on social media to keep up with you as you journey through life? I know we're going to see you back on our TV screens very soon, but plug your handle so we can keep up with what you all are doing.
Oh, go for it. You go for it.
Well, my TikTok currently is LeAnn WP. My Twitter is keeping my name, because I used to be the weddings editor and people would keep their names or not keep their names. And my Insta is, I think, just LeAnn Wilcox Plotnicki now.
I think it's
I have
LeAnn
other
W.
ones, but nobody cares about the rest.
Yeah. It might be LeAnn W. Plotnicki, but you could find it easy.
Okay.
Mine is Choo Choo Train on Twitter and also on Instagram, and then my handle on TikTok is Trey K. Plotnicki.
And Train is spelled Treyn.
A little play on words. Yeah.
Play on words.
I love it. Well, thank you so much to both of you. This has been so much fun, and I'm ready to see you on season 2. Just throwing it out there.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.